Today we're at West Valley Community College to ask when they think the best decade or decades of music is. So let's see what they gotta say. Hey, can I ask you something?
Sure.
When was the best decade in your opinion for music?
For music. That's hard. Can I choose two?
Yeah. Where your top?
The 90s and the 2000s for like R&B.
R&B?
And like pop, yeah.
Okay.
I'm more of a 70s, 80s person. Yeah, like disco and like 70s like rock. Yeah.
Oh, great! That's so. These days, what do you think is when do you think all that? Where do you think music falls flat these days? Because as of now, you said like teens and nothing below like maybe not teens, but like 2000s. Is that what you said?
That's what.
Yeah.
Okay, so so like 90s and 2000s, nothing beyond like the teen years. What do you think has been like the downfall of music these days?
I feel like a lot of like music, especially rap music, is like sexualizing women a lot.
Yep.
And I think that's a big downgrade that happens when talking about like the fall of music is the sexualization of women in music and in cultures.
Yep. I agree with that 100%.
And what about your opinion? What do you think has been like the downfall?
I feel like I agree with that. I feel like that is like the biggest downfall is like the degradation of women in like rap music. Yeah, I'll have to say that too.
Okay, thank you so very much.
problem.
Hey, excuse me, can I ask you something? I hope you don't mind.
I just don't like people walking up to me already filming without asking first.
Oh,
That's all it is.
I apologize. Well, may I?
Sure.
What's
It's just
about?
yeah.
It's something nothing specific. What do you think was the best decade for music?
That's a good question. Yeah.
90s? Okay, why? What was good like the 90s?
Very into like the 90s.
Grunge, art pop, everything was kind of coming back. Rap was like starting to hit its peak. House music was popping off. It was a good decade.
90s raves were epic too. Rave music back then.
And also just underground. That's when like the underground started to like become a concept because like underground music could like have a platform.
Yeah. I gotta go to class.
All right. So, thank you so very much, my man. When do you think was the best decade for music? 80s. Why?
I don't know, I just had the overall vibe, and then the music was good, the fashion was good, everything was good.
Like what genres, or do you think that like the 80s in general? Because the 80s was like you had punk, you had some no, not disco just yet. It was like new wave. I think that's what it was. And still like reggae was taking its toll there in the 80s. So what you just think like the 80s in general, or is there like a specific parts of the 80s?
Personally, for me, 80s in general, I think everything kind of influenced one another, and it just like made everything sound really nice.
Okay. What about you? What are your opinions?
Like, know a general idea, but I don't know specifics, so I can't tell you.
No. Just like the general. What do you think is the best decade for music?
I don't know if it's the best, but the nostalgic one for me is the 2000s, 2010s. So, like, that kind of music.
Okay.
You know, like,
It's okay.
Kesha. I love them. They're a vibe. I forgot his name. Yeah.
Oh, okay, that's good.
It's fun listening to them.
All right.
They're one of my favorites.
What about you? What about for you?
I guess like 2012.
2012? Huh?
Somewhere between those times.
Oh, okay. All right. That's all I need to know. I just want to ask, what do you think was the best decade in terms of music?
Oh, okay, it depends on the genre.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you have a specific genre in mind? mind, or just?
I'm just, it's just, I'm just asking, it's subjective, because everybody has a subjective answer.
Okay, so like I listen to more metal and rock, so I gotta say like 90s and early 00s. Actually, it's my favorite genre. Yeah, I completely agree with this. Yeah, because you've got all the classics.
What do you think, what about like the 60s? Like the 60s, like the 60s
Like
and 70s.
I mean, you've got the Beatles, you've got Pink Floyd, the Rolling Stones. Those are all some really great bands too. So like, I'm a big classic rock fan too. So that's why I can't like give you like it depends on the genre. Like,
No, it's
sorry, I'm getting
so
very
wait,
enthusiastic about this.
so I guess it depends on the genre. So I kind of want to ask if it's okay. When do you think music started to fall flat on its face? And what when do you because I mean how should I say this?
Like it kind of plateaued.
Yeah, it plateaued, and it just because a lot of people these days are listening to the 90s and prior. Everyone's listening to like 40, not even 40s, 20s. They're listening to music from 100 years ago up until like about 50 years ago, if not 30 years ago. So nothing.
So plateau.
Yeah.
I think. Oh, sorry.
No, you're good. My theory is, one, I think it was the pandemic. Because all of us were there, we had to sit there and face our mortality, and then we were like, oh, nostalgia, that happy, good feeling. And we went back to the things that made us feel really good. Like, same thing, like the early 2000s, stuff like that, and the 90s rock and stuff, that made me feel good, warm and fuzzy. Maybe that's why?
What? I'm just
feeling of like.
There's no right or wrong answer. This is just.
Yeah, that's the theory. So
That's her theory. I mean,
Hypothesis.
I gotta say it depends on the genre. Like I feel like now, like okay, the genres I listen to, it's not very heavy and predominant now, right? Like you don't hear as much about like hard rock and metal and stuff like that. Currently, like what's playing right now is more of what you feel like is the popular like trend almost. It's what. So I think for most people, if they're not into that kind of music, that's kind of what pulls them away. But I also really agree with your thing of like nostalgia. Like I grew up listening to a lot of classic rock with my dad, so like immediately I'm more drawn to that. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, and I guess that this is more of a chicken the egg question here because do you think it's trendy because that's what they say it's trendy, or do we think it's trendy, or do they promote it because it's trendy because we make it trendy?
Who would say?
Like the audience does the audience dictate the trend, or does the industry dictate the trend?
You know, it could be a bit of both. I don't think there's no one kind of factor because I think everyone influences everyone, right? Like it's a bit of push and pull in both directions. So that's kind of how I view it, at least.
Okay.
plus if they find something that brings in good numbers, like a certain beat or a song or rhythm, they're going to reproduce that to get the same amount.
Okay.
Connection with the audience.
Okay, thank you. That's great. What do you think was the best decade for music? The 60s? Okay. Yeah, I'm a huge fan of the 60s. Why do you think it how should I say this? Why do you think music these days is not as good as like the 60s?
They don't have to be as creative or really as expressive necessarily. Because nowadays I've noticed it's more so the lyrics are different, but the backing tracks, the sound overall, it's kind of copy-pasted from everyone else.
It's the same formula basically.
Yeah, it
every
becomes
song.
formulaic. But back in like the 60s, you didn't have that. You had like the 4-track and then the 8-track, where you could literally only have 8 things on 8 separate tracks at once, and that was your whole song. Or you were playing live. So
Okay.
you had to be really resourceful with how you used all your space.
Okay, so music these days is just doesn't really do it or speak to much of these generations, or what do
I
you
think
think?
They're
What-
getting a little complacent, is what I think. It's not that they're lacking the creativity, because songs nowadays they're really different from what they used to be, and that's really what music's about. So the expression of it, but it's how they're expressing it, the sound of the music. It's just copy pasted because it's like, oh, they like this sound, let's use it again, and that just keeps going and going. So because we have infinite tracks now,
Yeah.
you can just keep doing that.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
It-
also more of a business now. Like back in the 60s and earlier, like the 50s, 40s and such, you could just ask someone if you could play their song and be like, yeah, cool, go ahead. That's how a lot of bands have covers of songs and stuff. But nowadays it's all a business. You can't just play someone else's song. There's a whole legal process.
Yeah, licensing and all
Yeah.
that.
It kind of goes both ways, where it's nice to have all your stuff protected and you get all the money from it, but because it's all a big business now, there's less like freedom of expression.
Yeah, I can understand that. So, meaning like also, do you think these days people just get a little too defensive, and it's like, oh, this thing should be like copyright. They're playing the 12-bar blues in A. It's like, that's a formula. How is this? So, do you think that they're getting a little, that they're limiting the
There definitely are some cases like that. I have heard about them. I can't remember any of them off the top of my head. I've seen videos about it. It's kind of strange how far the copyright laws can go.
I think the copyright laws, just in my opinion, are just like subjective. It's just like, because I mean, you cannot say.
I mean, I'm subjective. I'm wearing the Beatles shirt. Of course, I'm gonna like the '60s.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, exactly. I mean, I love the '60s, but just I actually the genre that my group plays, that I'm posting this video on, is actually a modernized '60s.
Okay.
So it's as if this kind of like got updated.
All right, that's nice.
All right.
What's the group called?
It's called Moldavite. So subscribe to the channel.
Mind you write it down?
Yeah.
Girls just wanna have
You were just, and you're welcome to. I have a question for everyone.
Sure.
Yeah, of course.
When do you, and speaking of playlists,
Yeah.
what do you think was the best decade for music?
Depends on the person, to be honest. But for me, like early 2000s for sure. Just because.
I feel like I have to go with
Yeah.
that too. I know lots of people would probably say like 80s, 90s.
Nah, early
Just
2000s.
like
You got
different
50
stuff.
Cent. You got Eminem when he was like on his peak on his rap career. Who else would I know? I mean, it also depends on what kind of music you're in. You know?
What kind? Well, I mean, yeah, it is. I guess it is subjective, and I'm
Yeah.
just wondering. But what do you think? Just out of curiosity, when do you think the music started to plateau and everything started to just like not sound all that good?
Right now?
I think a lot of times now artists are making songs just to like be a like 10-second clip on TikTok type thing. Lots of like certain artists who can do that sometimes, just like have a good like 10-second thing that they're known for. But like I mean, there's some good music now, but yeah,
But I mean,
now,
it's not as like a. I listen. I do know that there are some good musicians out there even to today.
Currently, yeah.
I'm just saying that they're not being promoted. In my opinion.
And you have the platform SoundCloud for that.
Huh?
Platform like SoundCloud.
Yeah,
there's underground artists that can post on their platform for free. It's just a matter of exposure and then making sure you have the right.
We know somebody who posts on SoundCloud and on Spotify.
Yeah, Spotify costs money though. SoundCloud
That's
free.
true.
I'll leave that to my table. Let me know if you guys want a song.
Awesome. Thank you.
So that's a. But not like not when do you, so you think when it all plateaued when?
know. I grew up listening to predominantly Christian music,
Same
so,
here.
I wouldn't know
It's okay.
that much of a difference for the songs.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, same. I wouldn't be able to give like an exact answer. I'm sure there's lots of people who have a lot more like, who like know for sure they're like, where they stand on their music opinions and stuff. I'm pretty much just like, whatever. I listen
okay.
to stuff, so.
Okay.
But I mean, yeah.
It's something brief. When do you think? In your opinion, when was the best decade for music?
Oh, when was Pink Floyd? You're asking the right person. Well, I'm gonna. Well, I mean, I don't know where to start. What about the Beatles?
I'm just talking about like in general, like the best decade.
70s, 80s. I'm gonna go 60s. 60s.
Yeah, so we can't pick one.
No. Or decades, I guess.
I gotta go 60s, 70s.
But I'm doing my best to like keep it one decade. But
Okay.
so because I know 60s, 70s, and 80s is like it's like they're all good in their own way, but it's like it's all subjective. So what?
Yes.
So when do you? You can include even 40s and 50s there.
Yeah, well,
I'm not going back that far.
no, I do love a lot of that stuff, but my playlists go from the 30s
Oh wow.
to now. So, I mean,
So you've been basically listening to like the whole evolution.
yes.
Of music.
Because my family always had music in the house. So my grandparents, my parents, me, and now it's all my children. My children are musicians, so we've always had music, either the turntable, vinyl, or an instrument throughout my whole life.
DVD, or not DVDs, but
CDs.
Yeah.
CDs. Back in the 70s and 80s, you had 8 tracks.
All that.
So even though I was born in 1960, all that music before me was in the house. So I grew up listening to that. Now, when I got older, from the 70s on, that's when I started buying music. So all the music I bought as a teenager was 70s into the 80s. But now being older, I go back and buy, the older stuff.
So just in general, when do you think when do you think is the best decade in your opinion? And also follow up, when did music begin to plateau and like just like stop? Because before there was like, because right now in terms of like rock and roll and in terms of like great music, you can name like at least 10 artists per decade.
Yes.
But now you can, for the past like 20, 30 years, you can barely even, it's just like one or two artists. How do you think that came to be?
Well, I mean, people that come to my mind immediately are like Paul McCartney is in a class all by himself. Eric Clapton's in a class all by himself. Phil Collins. I mean, there's a lot of these artists that are just in an area where nobody else really touches them. I mean, they started out young. I mean, Paul McCartney is 80 years old now, but in the 60s when I started listening to him.
Oh yeah, he was a teenager.
Yeah, he was, but he's got early 20s. Yeah, he's still in the game, but you're right. That's less and less. That where you're able to pick like Beach Boys. I mean, Beach Boys. Nobody touches Beach Boys. I mean, they just, that's genius work there that they had going on, and there's only a few others after that, that have come after that are even close to that, and how he arranged things. And so for me, it's the 60s. I got to go with the 60s, and I bought music probably all the way up into the 80s and really slowed down after that quite a bit.
Okay.
Is what I would say.
Is that the same thing for you, or what?
Yeah, pretty much. I would say the 80s though for me, and I don't think I've appreciated anything that's come on the market since around 2010.
Yeah.
2005, 2010.
I think 2005. I mean, it had a brief blip with like a quick blink of like pop punk
Yeah.
in the scene, but then that was like the only glimpse, and then it just like went back to nothing.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
I agree. Yeah. I agree.
What are you doing?
So what's your project?
I'm just doing this for my channel, which is I'm in a band. It's a modernized 60s, so it blends that psychedelic music with blues, with some Eastern and Middle Eastern textures, and it's
That's eclectic.
yeah, exactly. That's
Yeah.
that's exactly what we're doing, because I'm like saying, I basically call it. I'm dubbing its own genre called spirit, but it is basically a modernized 60s.
Modernized 60s.
Yeah.
Wow. That
Hold
sounds.
on to that. I think you'd attract a lot of people
Yeah.
in my age bracket with that.
I mean,
Not spirit, but the other
Yeah, God.
modernized 60s.
well, I
was
mean, like
wild.
the genre is I'm labeling this because I mean, like, you have soul. You have blues, you have blues, and then soul, and then I'm like saying spirit as in terms of like that because it needs some sort of like title. Everything has like some sort of like a
Right.
sub genre
Got it.
of it.
Got it.
So
Got
that's
it.
why I'm dubbing it as spirit,
Okay.
because you have the soul and the spirit.
Okay.
You good?
No, I got it. No, it's okay. Well, that's yeah. You've triggered some thoughts in my brain. I'm gonna go home and listen to some more music.
Okay. Well, I can also give you the links to my work, and I'm working on more
Okay.
songs.
All right. No, I've been
Okay.
wanting to check it
Okay.
out. Yeah.
Thank you so very much,
Yeah,
and please share it with your friends.
Will do.
Okay.
When do you think was the best decade for music? Because I know that's
Past or
just in
anything?
general. In general, it can even be from 100 years ago. Because there are some artists even
I love 90s music,
90s. Okay.
but I'm a 90s baby, so I'm a little biased. What do you think?
I'm a 90s baby
Okay.
myself. I personally like it just depends on the artist.
Okay, okay,
So
okay.
I even listen to stuff from like even 100 years ago, like even Billie Holiday and
Okay, okay.
So
I say 90s. I say 90s.
okay. Why? Here, can I ask you why?
I think that's where now.
Okay.
When I was born, yeah.
Okay. When do you think was the best decade for music?
Oh, 80s for sure.
Definitely the 80s.
80s?
Either 80s or 70s. Can't even lie. I would say 80s for sure.
Okay. So
Do you want to hear my reason?
Yeah. Why?
It's because the music was better. I mean, they had instruments and there was actually like good vocals rather than like just beats and everything like now. You know what I mean? So
Yeah. What about for you?
Exactly what he said. It just was better quality music.
You?
I agree.
80s?
Yeah.
So what are some, and how about for you?
I say the 70s.
70s.
Clothes were better.
that he says music though, not
Oh, music. Yeah. Either 70s or 90s.
Oh, shui.
skipping
All
over
the
the 80s.
alternative.
Okay, so what do you think made a lot of why do you not like what's the music that's kind of like wrong like right now? Why do you think millennials and zoomers tend to listen to stuff that
TikTok. Number one answer, TikTok, right there.
that's why they do, or they don't like the music?
That's why the music is like so trendy. It's because it's always on TikTok where people are always on it. So it's just wherever they hear that, it's just right there.
Oh, you do it because of you like the 80s because of TikTok, or did
No. I like my kind of music because like I can.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right. How about you? So what? And and also just one question. When do you think the music just plateaued? Because I do.
2000s. 2000s was when it like got really bad. It was like going up, and then it just kind of started to make a weird trajectory, like down or just mid. So yeah.
I agree.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you for everything.
Of course.
Sweet. When do you think was the best decade for music?
You first. I don't know, the 50s maybe?
No, it's subjective.
Yeah.
The 50s? Why?
Wait, when did ABBA come out?
I don't know. That sounds 70s.
That sounds like 70s, I think. I think so.
Yeah. Same
Okay.
boat. I like 70s.
Okay. Yeah. Why? What were like some of the music and groups that lured you into that era?
I don't know.
ABBA.
I feel like there's a lot of iconic songs and like artists. I really hope that's 70s.
I really hope it's 70s because if it's not, then you know, well.
Yeah, I don't listen to much music.
Yeah.
Okay. And then that was just just a
Alright.
quick question. Sorry. Just quickly. I love the outfit, by the
Thank
way.
you. I would have been the height of my fashion 60 years ago.
Speaking of, when do you think was the best decade for music?
Oh, we're gonna get really angry
man.
about this.
90s.
68, 1968 to 1973.
68.
Yeah.
What about 67?
67 too, I guess, yeah. Probably from like 65 to, I guess, 73.
Okay, and why do you say not so much as
Because 80s and the synths ruined anything to do with music, dude. I think synths
You're
and
just
music.
wrong, but okay.
I think you're just wrong.
go on in because if you want any part of this, you're more than welcome.
I guess the man who only wears the Eagle shirt.
Yeah.
Well, welcome to the Hotel California.
Nice.
Such a lovely place.
Yep. So, how about for you?
I can't say, she'll get mad at me. Just say it. I'll give you $1.
Guess that gatekeep girl loss.
I like the 80s.
It's
So gross.
I think the 80s.
You know, music died with John Lennon in the 80s.
See?
You're factually incorrect, but okay.
You're factually
Definitely
incorrect.
opinion.
No.
No, I'm factually correct.
She's a little
My
wrong.
opinion is the only one.
You're a man. You don't get an opinion.
well, that's kind of rash. But
Women haven't gotten to have an opinion for a long ass fucking time. It's time for men to realize they don't get an opinion now.
You have no idea who you just interviewed.
That's my boss. I gotta go now.
But do you know what a woman is?
A woman is a woman with a beautiful pair of tits and a wonderful little cunt.
And nothing chromosomal. Cool.
Yeah. Does this bus not go to where you're going?
When do you think was the best decade for music? And it's subjective.
Probably like late 70s for me.
Late
I really
70s.
like late 70s rock.
Oh, so like that's like when the punk movement. That was like one of the height of the punk movement, like the Clash and
that kind of stuff.
Sex Pistols.
Yeah.
Okay, why do you enjoy that and not music today? When did music really like plateau and just like because I mean like you're lucky to hear from any new artists these days, while back in the 40s up to even like the 90s you were just getting so many great artists in and out. And what do you think why do you think it's not that as good?
I think it's still good and it has like a lot of possibility to like become like another like I don't know, like remarkable, time for music. But I think that specifically that it was like so different from what they were used to back then, because like the whole electronic like movement kind of started, or I don't really know the timelines of anything.
No,
But like,
you're doing well.
Yeah, like I feel like because it was so different, it was so like good and like remarkable, which is what I like about it. But yeah.
What makes it? What makes millennials and Zoomers these days kind of like leer towards decades of the past and not so much as music today?
I feel like it's the same thing. It's kind of like all this stuff isn't as like unique as it was, and like everybody's just copying, like, I don't know, like every single artist is just copying what they see like of this era or what has already been done before. Nobody's really creating new things.
So there's no innovation.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. That's I actually do have a group. It's a band, and I'm posting this interview on that channel. So it is kind of like a modernized 60s. We are trying to innovate. Music, because I do know that just everything is becoming really bland, and I just wanted the young generation to think what a lot of these industries, who they think that they are reaching out to, but I think they're just like alienated, because it's like because here I'm talking to people like you get to Zoomers and Millennials, and they're saying, I kind of like that kind of counterculture sound. I don't really like the this crazy hip hop and rap, and reviving this, and just like how everything just seems to be so corporatized and formulaic.
Yeah. Right. What's the channel called?
It's called Moldavite.
Do you want to type
Yeah.
it out?
Well, there you have it. So leave in the comments section what you think is the best decade for music.